Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to the conclusion of the Darksun box set in hardcover. It took me a little longer than I expected to muddle my way through the... what was it? What was it called? The Wanderer's Journal. I thought I had that right in my head. It's a good, just about 100 pages or so, including the maps and the flip books that are in it. And I'm going to go at it, step by step here. The Society in the World of Athos chapters, obviously you need these, but they spent so much time, so many pages on the geography of Athos, describing the rocks and the mud flats and the deserts and the mountains and all that, it just killed me trying to read through it. The Athos Society, talking about the different races and cultures and things like that, is helpful, but it could have been summed up a lot quicker. It's quite a slog to get through the first two parts. Especially, like I said, the geography. There was, toward the end, a nice chapter. I was talking to Omen Owl about it before I'd actually gotten to that part. About the ruins and the dust-covered cities and things like that. And I finally got to that part, and that was actually really enjoyable. Very Conan, H.P. Lovecraft-esque, where you're traveling and a sandstorm, uncovers the ruins of an ancient city, and you've probably only got a limited amount of time to get in there and rummage around, grab some cool stuff, and then get the heck out before the next sandstorm, buries the place. Chapter 4 was the Atlas of the Tyr region that went over each of the city-states, which also included couple of paragraphs each about the sorcerer king that rules, or queen that rules over the individual states, which they did. That was actually really concise and very enjoyable, giving you a real good quick feel for the place to determine if you want to run the players through that sort of an area or not, depending on what the city state is like, and how tyrannical the overlord is of the place, and the basic feeling of each place. And that was actually quite enjoyable. But then it actually talks about some of the more notable, I'm going to call them dungeons for lack of a better word, but the different places that you would explore, because this is Dungeons and Dragons. And after 250 some odd pages, barely a mention of the terms that you would equate to dungeon exploration, dungeon delving, however you want to phrase it for your group. But then I got to the part where in the Atlas it talks about the different basically sunken cities, the Lost Oasis, Grax Pool, the Mud Palace, the different islands and things like that, which was the ruins, the Bleak Tower, Arkhold, Kaladne, Bodak, I can't pronounce that one or that one, Yaramuk, okay, different landmarks, the Dragon's Bowl, the Melkilot Mountains, Dragon's Crown Mountains, things like that. That's what is going to excite your players into the feel of Dungeons and Dragons. Let's go underground. Let's kill some monsters. Let's get some treasure. Solve some puzzles. Find that MacGuffin and bring it back for the reward. Those kinds of things that are so traditionally Dungeons and Dragons. I know you can go way off the beaten path and come up with different plot hooks and ideas, and the whole slave rebellion and revolt theme that constantly runs through Darksun, and I will get to when I go over freedom, but I don't want to talk about it too much here. Is for me what would lure me into the world of Darksun, Where's the treasure, the riches, the adventure? Not just fighting it out over the sand or the gladiatorial arenas, which does sound like fun. Don't get me wrong. A couple of good bouts in the arena, that could be great. But unless you're running a gladiator campaign, it could get real boring real quick, because it's really just concentrated combat for the sake of combat. And after a while, for me, that would get kind of boring. The monster section is woefully small. I realize there's more monsters and things like that elsewhere. The dragons and or Dragon of Tyr and Darksun are ridiculously overpowered until you get yourself into the teen levels or even higher. The magic and the psionics that just one dragon could toss at a party, compared to AD&D and even other parts of 2nd edition. These guys are just dragons on steroids. You throw in 20th level psionicist on top of that, unless your party is equipped with at least one good psionicist, full-fledged, that's their character profession, you're just gonna get smoked. And without a lot of other monsters, you're gonna be fighting a lot of the character races 90% of the time, and I find that kind of not really my style. I want to fight displacer beasts and giant snakes and things like that. And there were literally no giant snakes other than the silkworm, giant scorpions. I mean, come on, that's like a no-brainer. Obviously, a lot of those creatures are in the Monsters Compendium, and it would have been nice to have a better list of monsters to use, as opposed to a list of monsters that don't exist here. We get it. This is a brand new world with its own theme and feel to it, but it would have been nice to have a better comprehensive list of things to deal with, as well as an updated treasure table for Athos, converting things to ceramic pieces, and when and if you might actually find gold and silver, gems, that sort of thing. Would have been nice to have a little bit better version of that. The adventure, A Little Knowledge, is not too bad. It definitely gives you a nice little tour of a lot of the aspects of the world, and I'm not going to give out any spoilers, but it does work really well with the flip book. The first one is the Dungeon Master's book, which, having the actual flip books, is a genius invention that should have kept on going. If they had done the flip books with everything 2nd edition, 3rd, 4th, and 5th edition, they would have been able to market that, make a ton of money, and have a lot of Dungeon Master Guide, page by page, things to read out, you'd read out loud, the setups, etc. And then the players' versions, which are, for the most part, usually the player aid cards, same picture, just different book, with all of the illustrations right there, that tank-looking thing, pulled by giant lizards. That's where, that's where Darksun really started to shine. Was the quasi-technological devices born out of the necessity of the harsh environment, pulled or pushed by large creatures, designed completely different, very Mad Max theme to it. They should have had more flyers and flying ships, as well as different sailing vessels for the Sea of Silt, and I think they're called kanks, the flying creatures. Some more illustrations of characters riding those would have been great, just for the overall feel of it. But all of the little flip cards were just a phenomenal idea. Give you really an idea of what you see. Sometimes, like the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and in this case, even some of the maps were helpful. Just a phenomenal idea. Possibly the best idea Darksun had were the flip books, and I noticed that there were 2 of them in the adventure Freedom, which is a full-fledged adventure. It's a little beat up, my copy, but it's literally just a chart, some blurbs here and there, and 2 flip books. One for the players, one for the DM. I'm so stealing that idea for my own game worlds. I'm going to go out this weekend, buy a bunch of, notebooks, that flip open as opposed to left to right. I forget what those are called. Phenomenal idea. Just pull some AI generated art, or have my son, put him to work, and paste them in for the players. Tell them go to page such and such, and I'll mix up the pages so that they won't know, as opposed to doing them in order, because you leave the room and then they start flipping through the book and like, oh, we know what's coming next. But if you mix them up, they'll be like, oh, okay, no clue. Then the last part of the book is the maps, which, nicely drawn, but cut poorly in every sense of the word. It would have been better to look at them as a page, a 2-page layout, and go, okay, as opposed to then trying to, mentally cut and paste them. Or I suppose you could photocopy them and reproduce them when you get this book. If you have the original, then you have them and they fold out nicely. I've got the little version I showed off a couple of weeks ago, where I can just use that as the okay, here's the map, and now we're going to go to the expanded version. Hell, they could have even found a way to just reproduce the map and put it in here, but it was much easier to put it in the book, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to actually use it, but if I was, and you can find a copy of this, I paid like $40 or something like that for a hardcover. I've seen them cheaper for softcover on eBay right now, as opposed to getting the box set that's going to get crushed. The flimsy saddle stitched previous versions of the books, they're going to get beat up quick. And this one, I have no idea when it was printed, but it's virtually mint condition, other than, having been read once. I'll probably go back to it someday later on down the road, but for now, I want to get to the Dragon Kings, which I'll be reviewing tomorrow. Excuse me. I should have brought some water up here. It's blazing up here. And then the day after that, hopefully, by the end of the week, I will get to the Ivory Triangle box set and the Freedom box set, and go over those and give you guys my opinions as well. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan, but there is a lot to appreciate. And believe it or not, I did absorb a lot of ideas, inspiration that I'll be using for my nautical campaign for that. So at the very least, it was worth the journey at least once to delve into Darksun, give it a fair shake. And I'm not done yet, so who knows? They may inspire me onto even greater adventures because of the ideas contained within these volumes. Or who knows? Maybe someday I will actually run Darksun, because I'll have tired of the open sea, but not likely. So until next time, I hope to see you guys tomorrow. I'm off for a game night, and I will see you guys probably on Discord afterwards. And I hope you guys have a great week. And until next time, happy trails.